Hello everybody, John here from the 365-day challenge. I was not uploading hands during the tournament when we had like 5 straight days of playing tournaments. I think tournament hands are not as interesting, and we never got to like the point of the tournament where it was really deep stacked, and there was like, it started out deep stacked, but the hands are kind of boring as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'll make tournament videos if I play more serious tournaments in the future, but now that we're back to the cash games, let's break down a few really interesting hands that I played in the last few days. This first one I think is the most interesting hand I've played from a theory perspective, or one of them. But I think all 3 of the hands here are somewhat interesting. Two of them very interesting. One of them a little bit interesting. So I'll see what you guys think. If there's anybody that has opinions on them. So the first hand, we're playing a bomb pot, and we have the 9-5 King 8 rainbow. So we're not excited. We're not excited about the 9-5 8 King rainbow, as we shouldn't be. We go to the flop automatically with $135 in the pot. That's just how the bomb pots work. And we deal with these flops. 6. If I accidentally mess up on the suit of a specific card, I only have written down like how many clubs or how many spades or whatever are on the board. So if I mess up like one of the cards being a suit that it can't be, just assume one of the other cards was that suit. 6 of clubs, 8 of hearts, deuce of clubs, 6-8 deuce with 2 clubs. Nothing super exciting here. We've got a pair of 8s. We got a gut shot straight draw. But even if we make the gut shot straight draw, it's not to the nuts, which is just like something that's not exciting in these bomb pots where there's 9 people in the hand. On the second board, we have Jack of diamonds, 9 of hearts. Actually, this must be of diamonds. No, that can't be of diamonds. Jack of diamonds, 9 of hearts, deuce of diamonds. So another not very exciting board for us. We have a pair of 9s. That's really all we've got going on. Just two boards where if anyone bets anything, we're just folding. Fortunately for us, it checks around on the flops. So we're going to the turn. There's still $135 in the pot, and the 8 of spades comes off on the turn on the top board, making us 3 8s. Still not a super strong hand, but there's some value in 3 8s. Decent chance we could find a way to take down this pot, especially if we fill up on the river on this board. King comes off, then we're looking quite good. On the second board, we get the 5 of spades. So we make 2 pair on the bottom board. Still not an impressive hand, really, but it is 2 pair. And we make 3 8s on the top. So there's some really good river cards that can come up here for us if like a king peels off or if a 9 peels off. Those are feeling pretty good. Even a 5 would feel pretty great up here. And we make 2 pair on the bottom, so maybe if we fill up on the bottom, we'll be good as well. One player pots it, and everyone folds except for us and one other person. So let's say that it was this guy who potted it. He makes it 135. This guy calls the 135. Everybody else folds, and on the button we make the call with our 3 8s and 2 pair on the bottom. I'm not even 100% sure that you're supposed to call the turn here. My bomb pot theory is still not super strong. Maybe you should just be folding here, because I think like if I don't fill up on the top board or the bottom board, I'm probably just folding on the river. But in any case, the river card comes a queen of clubs on top, so the flush gets here on top, really hurting our hand. It basically makes it so our 8 is just not going to be good very often at all. And then on the river on the second board, it's the 9 of diamonds. The 9 of diamonds is in our hand, but it's the 9 of spades or something. Like I said, I get the suits wrong because I just have them written down in what the boards were. So the 9 of diamonds peels off on the bottom, and we make 9s full of 5s down here. This player bets the pot. 405. This player folds, and there was $405 in the pot going to the river. I have about 15 or 1600 in my stack, and this guy has me covered. So We have a river decision here. I don't think it's possible for us to fold. But here's the interesting question in this hand, and what was going through my mind. There's a pretty good chance. I don't think it's by any stretch. It's definitely not a guarantee, but there's a pretty decent chance that if this guy potted the river, he has clubs up here with something down here. This guy's not like a fish. He's not going to be doing this with a terrible hand. We have some blockers to the full houses on top. Not that that matters a ton. Like, he can easily have deuces or sixes or queens, or even just a queen eight with the last eight in the deck. Something like that makes him happy up here. But it feels like a decent part of his range includes a flush on top. And then on the bottom, we're pretty close to nutted. I mean, we can't beat Jack 9 and we can't beat pocket jacks. But if he has Jack 9 or pocket jacks, there's actually a reasonable chance that our 8 is good. So I had to think about this for a while, and I think in retrospect this might be a mistake. But my thought process, in fact, I'd be interested to hear from someone who knows bomb pot theory a little bit better than me. But my thought process was, I think the 9-5 is going to be good enough of the time that if I can pot it here and take this guy off of a flush on the top board, that makes it worthwhile for us. That was my thought process, was I think the 9s and 5s are almost definitely winning. He didn't bet the flop on Jack 9 deuce, 2 diamonds. Seems like decent chance that a hand that is good now, like if he had clubs with Jack 9, I think he would have found a bet on the flop. If he had clubs with jacks, I think he would have found a bet on the flop. So it doesn't seem like his hand is in the range of being strong enough to like scoop us. So I decided to take a little gamble here, and I raise it up to my stack, which is about 1,600. My hope is that he has a flush up here and finds a way to lay it down, or even a weak full house. If he has something like deuces full on top, that he finds a way to lay it down. I know the 8s aren't good unless he has us beaten here. There's a chance that the 8s are good if he has jacks or Jack 9. But other than that, there's like no way. There's no way he's value betting the top board with something worse than an 8. So I decide that I'm going to try to take him off of a better hand up here, a weak full house or a flush. If he has something like a 9 with a flush on top, we might be able to take him away. So I make it 1,600, and he calls. He actually tanked for a while, but he calls. He has a flush on top with Jack 9. So this is a spot where I talked about it in the chat a little bit. I mean, it's a cooler. You're going to pay the 405 on the river no matter what. But I could have minimized losses here by just calling, and instead I got really aggressive trying to take him off a hand that beats us on top and cost us an extra $1,200. So this one was a little tough. I'm still not sure in theory how sound my play is, if he has enough hands here that we can take him off of. I'm just not sure if this ends up being the correct play. I thought about it for a while, and I thought, if we can get him off of deuces full or sixes full or clubs on top, it's just so valuable. And how often does he really have us beaten on both boards? Like, even sometimes, I mean, he just snaps us off here and he's got jacks full and our 3/8s are just good. So it's a weird spot. I'm interested to see if people who are better at these than me, what they would do here. If this was just PLO or whatever, and it was just this board, and he bet 405 on the river, I would just call. But the fact that it was double board with the ability that he might just be floating like kind of a weird hand up here that we could get him to fold was definitely what made me play the way I did. So interesting hand. Not sure if I played it well or not, but that was a pot where we lost 1,600. He was very scared, obviously, when he made his call. I think I just snapped with his hand, but he was very scared and made the call and was good, scooped us up. This next hand, this is a hand that, I'm really trusting myself in this hand, and if it doesn't go the right way, it's pretty punty. So let's have a look. I raised to $15 with the queen 10 of clubs. Hold on. There's fold and fold and fold. Everybody folds to me. I make it $15 with the queen 10 of clubs. The button calls, right? Yes, the button calls. The small blind makes it 45. And the big blind calls the 45. And we have some interesting stuff going on here player-wise. Everyone's going to end up calling the 45. But we have some interesting stuff going on here. Oh, no, actually, this player folded, which is just so weird. I don't know what you fold there. But I call 45, and we have some interesting stuff going on here. Villain number 2 is a guy who's playing tight solid. Seems like a solid player. He hasn't run too hot this session, which might be relevant. But he's playing pretty good poker and clearly like looking for his spot. Villain number 3 is a super drunk, very poor player who has gotten very lucky a number of times so far in this session, and he is sitting on a massive stack. I posted some stuff about him in the Discord, but Villain 3 probably has $7,000 in the stack, and it's all just getting lucky. I played a pot against him earlier where I 3-bet to $250, which is not a standard 3-bet sizing for me, with aces, and he called, and the flop was 3-3-2, and I bet another $250 or $300, and he called, and the turn was a 7, and we got all in for 600 more, and he had pocket 7s. So he's running very, very good in this session so far, and has a huge stack. I also have a fairly large stack, somewhere in the like 3,000 to 4,000 range. Villain number 2 has more like 1,200 or so going into this hand, I believe. In any case, let's go back to the hand. So let's say approximate stack size is 1,100, 7,000, and we have something like 3,500 maybe is a good estimate. So he raised to 45, he calls, we call, this guy folds. Who knows what kind of like hand you could ever call 15 and not 45 with on the button in this kind of hand. The flop comes 10 of spades, 8 of spades, deuce of hearts. So 10-8 deuce with 2 spades. We make the top pair. I don't know how relevant even I feel like that is in this point in the hand. Villain number 2 has 3-bet me. He's not really a getting out of line type of guy. So yeah, maybe he has an ace-king or an ace-queen or something here, but he's not 3-betting like a bunch of garbage here. So it's over pairs, it's ace-king, it's ace-queen. And on the flop, he comes out and bets $100. Oh, the pot going to the flop is 120. No. Wow, I don't know how I wrote that down wrong. 135 plus 15, 150. Oh, I just can't read my own writing. $150 in the pot. He bets $100. When he bets $100 here, I actually don't think that he would do this with ace-king or ace-queen from the way he's played before. This feels like an overpair to me. It could be an ace-king or ace-queen, don't get me wrong. Always a chance for it. But generally speaking, this feels like an overpair to me from this guy, especially into this villain. The villain calls the $100, and it's on us. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not willing to make some plays in the right spots in this hand, I think you should just fold Queen 10 here. There's just like not great cards that can come out for you. You can only get in more trouble as the hand goes on. I kind of put some faith in myself that if the spot emerges that I can make a play here and turn this 10 into a bluff, and that I can read the situation correctly. Like if villain 2 just checks the turn, maybe we're good. You know. So I call the 100 here, planning on making a play some percentage of the time, and getting there some percentage of the time. You know, it can just peel off a queen here, and then we're looking pretty darn good. As it plays, the turn peels off a 2 of spades. There's now $420 in the pot going to the turn. It's a kind of scary card. Deuce definitely in my range. The table definitely views me as loose aggressive and capable of having just about everything because that's the way that I play. Spades complete feels good. The villain 2 checks, but I'm still keeping an overpair as a pretty large part of his range. This is a pretty scary card, and this is not a guy that wants to lose $1,100. Just putting it frankly. Watching, and some of these guys, you can really watch them and you can tell whether they're comfortable with the kind of money that they're playing for here. This guy's playing solid, but I don't think he's wanting to lose $1,100, so he's playing a little scared. Villain 3 bets $200. Now, I have a lot of experience watching Villain 3. I've told you guys in other videos that the biggest thing that I do at these tables is pay attention to how fish play and what their bet sizing is like and how they play specific hands, because I don't really care about how the good players are playing. I want to avoid them. I care about how guys like this are playing. When he bets this 200, previously, when he has had big hands, like when he has made things like flushes and full houses in spots like this, his bets have been much larger. He's very drunk. He doesn't have any problem like betting 1,000 right here. And that's generally what he's been doing with big hands. So when he bets the 200, I'm pretty confident he does not have a good hand, or at least not a huge hand. He could have something like a 10, something like ace 10 is a possibility maybe. More likely from like my estimations, and we're just estimating, it's not impossible that he just shows up with 10s full here and he plays a hand differently than he has before. But from what I've seen, this feels like he has something like pocket 7s with the 7 of spades. That kind of hand. Something where he's like interested in the pot continuing, but he's like not real excited about it. Jack 9 with the Jack of spades. A hand like that, where he's just he wants to keep playing, but he doesn't want to put a bunch of money in. So we have a decision here. We can fold, which I think is fine. But the big question that I asked myself when the action gets to me is, will Villain 2 fold aces or kings? If the money's big enough, is he going to fold a hand like aces or kings here? What if he has aces or kings with one spade? Is he going to be willing to put it all in on this turn with aces or kings? Against two opponents. He doesn't know what Villain 3 is going to do yet. I always assume that other people are not paying enough attention to how other people play, so let's assume that he thinks Villain 3 might have a real hand here. Can we get Villain 2 to fold aces, kings, queens, jacks, even if they have a spade in them? I thought about this decision for a decent amount of time, and I decided that I thought I could get Villain 2 to fold those hands. And honestly, with Villain 3, if he calls, we're probably ahead. If he re-raises all in, then I guess we figure out that maybe we read him wrong this time. But if he just flats us, I wouldn't be surprised if it just goes check on like 90% of rivers and we win. Or I mean, not 90% obviously, but I end up making it 1,200. So a pretty big over raise here, but there is a decent amount of money in the pot. There's 620 in there. And what I'm doing here specifically, I actually think I made it 1,100 because it wasn't specifically the bet that I wrote down. I raised enough to put Villain 2 all in. So maybe just 1,000 actually. All I wrote down is raised to Villain 2 stack size. So it might have been 1,000. I can't remember exactly, but it was 1,000 to 1,200, enough to make Villain 2 have to call all in if he's calling. Leaving me a fair bit of money behind. If Villain 3 ships it, I think I can just fold. But the main thing is I need Villain 2 to fold because he's the one that I'm worried about having us beaten. And he goes into an agonizing tank. He tanks for quite a while and folds. And when he gets back to Villain 3, he like fake tanks for like 5 minutes and folds. Like, I mean, this guy, he just, especially after you watch this tank job, you just know he has nothing. Like, literally 7s with a 7 of spades is like what makes the most sense. He just tanked for decades, but trying to act like he's making a big laydown, but he's not a guy that was making big laydowns. So Villain 3 ends up folding as well, and we take down a pretty decent sized pot here. This one's very risky. If I had to go back and do it again, I don't think I would do it. But in the moment, It felt like an alright play, and I felt like I had the situation read extremely well as far as who has what. Just asking that one big question, can we get villain 2 to fold over pairs, and read it correctly. I'll give you guys, actually, at the end of this, I'll give you an interesting hand that I didn't play, but somebody else did, that I think is just kind of funny and shows you the difference between, like, online and live poker sometimes. But this is an interesting hand. We end up getting the result that we want, but I think if I went back in time, I would not make this play again. I think trying to rely on somebody folding a big overpair, especially if he has like a spade here, I think is not probably a long-term profitable strategy, even if I feel like I know this guy pretty well. This is not the kind of guy that's just going to immediately call off with aces, but he might tank call it off. And villain 3, I mean, he's terrible. He lost the 7,000 in like all of about 2.5 hours, maybe less. So, interesting hand. One where we get away with one that I think maybe we shouldn't have gotten away with or shouldn't have attempted to begin with. Probably just folding the flop a decent percentage of the time, or call flop fold turn is probably fine. But interesting hand. Okay, this is another hand, and I'm sure people that have been following my hand histories to this point realize that I am a very aggressive player. Since about 90% of the hands that we're showing are me trying to bluff people, and we're going to do it again. So we have the 7-8 of spades. We raise it up to $15. Sorry about my dog in the background if that is being loud. I can't tell if you guys can hear him really badly, but Jesus, he's loud. I make it 15. We get a call here. These guys fold. I make it 15. We get a call here. We get a call here. We get another call and a fold. And the small blind re-raises to 50. There's a fold here. We call the 50 with the 7-8 of spades. These guys call the 50 as well. Going to the flop, there's $252 in the pot. And the flop comes Jack 6-3. Jack of spades, 6 of spades, 3 of hearts. So we flop a flush draw. The original 3-better, who is another one of the, generally speaking, tight, solid regulars. This hand might show you that they have a little bit more to their game than I had seen before. I know that this guy's a little bit willing to get out of line, but I did not necessarily think he was going to get as out of line as he is in this hand. He made it 50, and on the flop, he bets $120. We call the $120. We're both like over $800 deep behind. We get a fold from villain 1, a fold from villain 2, and a fold from villain 4. So we are heads up with the reg. There's now $492 in the pot. And the turn comes the Queen of Hearts. Now, evaluating my opponent's play, he should always bet this turn, and probably pretty large. A new high card has come on the board, so if I have something like King Jack, Ace Jack, I now have to be worried about him having Ace Queen, King Queen, Queen Jack, Queen 10. I now have to be worried about all those hands in addition to being worried about aces or kings or just queens or jacks or even sixes. So this is a card where my opponent should always be betting if he's a solid player who knows his poker, and this guy is for the most part. And he bets 160, a very small bet, but does keep the pressure on me a little bit. He has about 500 behind after he makes the $160 bet. So, my thought process, if I shove here, and he doesn't have a queen, the way that I'm thinking about it, if he doesn't have a queen or better, I think he can fold. If he has something like ace 10, ace king, one of those types of hands, I think it's a pretty easy fold. If he has something like ace jack, it's kind of tough. You could probably still call with ace-jack if he knows his man well enough, but if he has a hand like tens that's just taking the second barrel, eights taking the second barrel, something like that, I think he can get away. So it seems like a decent spot with 492 in there, another 160. So we're looking at $660 in the pot, $650 in the pot, to try to just take it away from him here with some the ability to get there, a nice semi bluff on the turn. And we go ahead and raise it up to 675, which has him covered. Now, I wrote in the Discord that given how this hand played out, I don't like this shove at all, because our opponent calls, and he calls and immediately says, do you want to run it twice? And I said, sure. I was not feeling good when he instantly called, but I said, sure. And he turned over 9-7 of hearts. So he just had 2 hearts, no real draw. And if I had known that he would call with a hand like that, I think this shove's pretty bad, to be honest with you. I thought he would make some kind of big folds here, but if he's willing to call with 9 high and a flush draw for the last 500, I will say this guy was not running very well yesterday, and he lost a lot of money before this hand. I don't know that this is a standard play for him, for sure. Sometimes when you're losing and you're tilted, you get out of line, and I think that might have been what happened here. But in any case, we shove, he calls, he asked if we run, I'll run it twice. I said yes, and we actually lose to 9 high on both boards. The 9 high wins on both boards for a fairly large pot. Unfortunate. But I mean, if I know that this is his calling range, then this is a pretty terrible shove. I should just call the 160 and see what peels off on the river. Interesting hand. I guess a mistake in retrospect, given the calling range that we saw. If he had even been willing to call here with like pocket tens or like jack 10 or something, then this is a pretty bad shove, I think. So his range for 3-betting, I did not include a hand like 9-7. I did think he might 3-bet a hand like jack 10 suited or something like that. This guy's willing to do something like that for sure. Interesting pot. I think I misplayed it. Let's talk about, let me open this up real quick, and let's just talk about another hand that got played at a table I was at. And we will pretend that we are one of the players in the hand, but we actually were not one of the players in the hand. What do you do in this situation? You get dealt King of Hearts, King of Diamonds. I'm just going to write it out, because this hand was very short. You get dealt King of Hearts, King of Diamonds. You have about 4,000 in your stack. So you're pretty deep stacked. That's not what the effective stack in this hand is, though. But you're pretty deep stacked. You've had a good session so far, and you get dealt King of Hearts, King of Diamonds. So sorry about my dog, dude. He is just losing it constantly for this whole video. I don't know what he could possibly be so mad about. In any case, King of Hearts, King of Diamonds, 4,000 in our stack, and we raise it to $15. A nice, solid $15 raise. There's a bunch of folds, and this player, who has $1,600, moves all in. To my memory, I don't think there were even any callers. There might have been a caller, like one caller. And this guy goes all in for $1,600. And all you know about him is that he is not playing very many hands, and when he is playing hands, he is making huge bets and raises. He's playing like probably 5% VPIP. When he open raises, it's usually to like 60 or 70, but we haven't seen a lot of his hands show down. He did do this once before, but he only had $500 or $600 in his stack at that time, and he had aces. Do you fold kings? I was sitting next to the player who was in this conundrum, and I was trying to decide what I would do. I said to myself, before I saw his hand, I said to myself, queens or less, it's an automatic fold. Aces is an automatic call. Kings, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with kings. What would you do? Would you call? Just give you a second to think about it. You call with kings here? You're only invested for $15. There's always another hand, but you've got kings. As played, our hero shows me the kings as he's sweating and folds, and villain 6 shows aces. Good laydown. The more that I thought about it, the more I kind of like the fold. We've only seen him, the only hand he's shown down with this line so far has been aces. He has made like the 60 and 70 raises pre-flop, but the only other time he did this just jam move, it was aces. And like I say, there's always another hand. You're only invested into this pot for $15. I don't see any reason to risk half of your stack during the middle of a nice winning session. You're just going to risk half your stack against a guy that you've only seen shown down aces and you're not even invested in the pot. And he's just playing in such a weird way. I mean, an opponent like that is so weird. I don't know if I would have been able to get away from it if I was him. I think I would have convinced myself that it was possible that this was ace, king, or queens. But this guy works at the poker room, and apparently this is just always how he plays. I did not see him make this move again the rest of the day. So the only 2 times I saw him make it, it was aces. I'm guessing that's just how he plays them. So good fold by my British friend who laid down the kings. I think it was a good fold. But interesting hand. That's all for today, guys. The dog is just going nuts, so I'm not going to go any longer on this. I don't know how loud this is for you guys in the background, just hearing him constantly bark, but appreciate you guys. Just wanted to get some hands down on paper, and we'll talk about some more after the next session. Talk to you later, guys.